obviously Avengers is one of the biggest, hugest, most AAA properties you can possibly make a game out of. And so on that front, it has to be kind of doing a little bit of everything, but playing it just made me want smaller games focused on singular characters. Let's start off with Thor. He's a Norse god who swings a hammer. Do you think you could make a AAA video game out of a character like that? Because
I think you could make a AAA video game of the year out of that.
Yeah, I mean, we got God of War, which was phenomenal, and it was that exact premise. It was. I mean, it seems like it honestly took some cues from the Marvel movies and how that hammer worked, and
yep.
It's just like I feel like you could even dip into sort of the older God of War games where he was fighting like mountain-sized entity. I guess you fought some pretty big stuff in the new one, but like, even if they wanted to get completely colorful and over the top and like move away from the sort of, father son approach that the newer game had, like having just a wackadoo Thor adventure through Asgard would be incredible. And again, it's super expensive to develop games. So if you throw millions of dollars at a Thor game that doesn't pan out, then what are you going to do? Moving on, Crystal Dynamics has been working on the Avengers game, and they have a wonderful history of making some great games. There's a part in the Avengers beta where you basically you play as Black Widow. Black Widow uses a combination of stealth and melee and firearms, and she runs around in the snow and fights a bunch of dudes. And it kind of made me think of a different game that I played from Crystal Dynamics, which was Rise of the Tomb Raider. We got a wonderful game that was basic. Like I feel like you could very easily make a Black Widow game using existing systems from other games. Again, like just. She's a super spy. Like make a Splinter Cell game that happens to be tied to the MCU. Like I don't know.
I mean, what I really liked about the sort of more recent Tomb Raider games is that they were mild Metroidvanias in terms of traversal. Like you unlock skills and traits and physical weapons that would allow you to enter areas that you couldn't. And I feel like that totally ties into the sort of like spy theme. And like you could have had flashbacks that tie into some of the movie settings. Like there's so much to work with there. It's also what I really like about comic book video games is that a lot of times they allow you to bring in enemies and villains that you wouldn't necessarily see in a film, because you have to kind of pad out a 20-hour story with a bunch of lesser known people. And I think there would have been some interesting space for some lesser known characters to sneak into a game like this. But I think a third person sort of like spy heavy run and gun action platformer, Tomb Raider style,
it could have been fine. It might not have been, game of the year, but it would have been, interesting. I think it would have just been really focusing on one single thing, and it's a proven formula. Another Avenger, Hawkeye, is of course one of the world's best archers, and he could just as the name would suggest, sort of bullseye anything and just hit stuff from super far away. I kind of wish we could get like a Hawkeye game that's like those Sniper Elite games where the whole point is you're basically trying to infiltrate stuff and you're trying to be sneaky and stealthy, but your primary focus is like getting in position to do super long range shots. And like, I don't know, obviously it probably wouldn't be quite as violent. Like these games have you shooting Hitler's testicles off with a bullet from, 1,000 yards away or whatever. But like, I don't know, having a Hawkeye game where he's got to sort of make the best of his, his aim, but he's still got the disadvantage of being a fairly normal human,
Yeah, no, I think that would be awesome. And also you could probably do, Ronin DLC that was a little more hand-to-hand combat and a little more sort of close and personal.
Yeah, but again, I mean, if you're like, hey, Hawkeye, the game, it might not have quite as much selling as this like Avengers, the game. Captain America did have a game back when the first Avenger came out, which was, I remember at the time people were like, this is like a not great Arkham game, kind of. Like this is sort of just a beat 'em up. And I mean, that's the problem with making licensed games. I feel like the Arkham games really broke that formula, and they made it so that it was, a game would be released around a movie and it would kind of cash in on that, but it wasn't, beholden to be exactly based on that. I think you could make a really cool Captain America game if you just made a fairly straightforward third-person action adventure shooter type thing, but really leaned in on that shield mechanic. Like you just saw him kind of throwing the shield around. He's always deflecting it. Like, what if there was some kind of bullet time thing like you see in Max Payne? Like, basically just boil down this character and be like, what is he good at? And he's good at deflecting bullets, deflecting stuff with his shield, obviously hand-to-hand combat and all that. But if there was a whole thing where if you go into like, Captain America bullet time mode and you see bullets coming towards you and their trajectories and you move your shield and basically you can, deflect an enemy shot to hit somebody else in the room or throw your shield so it hits 4 different points. And I don't know. This is not, unfeasible. This is a thing you could completely make, but we didn't Yeah.
There's also a lot of like really interesting sort of shield pairing mechanisms and mechanics that come into play in a lot of modern third person action games, like fighting the shield guys in Ghost of Tsushima. There's a lot of stuff like that in the Dark Souls and other FromSoft games, and I feel like they could totally lean into that element of it. Like make a third person action game where you can really ramp up the difficulty, throw in a little bit of bullet time stuff, but also like have this shield mechanism that also doubles as an offensive tool. I think that would have been awesome.
Captain America, Agent of Shield. Get it? That'd be pretty. I don't know.
I do get it.
And then finally, the thing that I immediately thought of jumping into Avengers was that Hulk is like, it's such a gorgeous Hulk model. It looks so cool to see him in action. He smashes the crap out of so many things, and that whole thing where he's like wall running and jumping, and it just made me want a Hulk game. It just made me want like a new Hulk Ultimate Destruction, or like I got the 2003 Eric Bana movie tie-in Hulk game. Yep. On like PC CD-ROM in out of like a discount bin at like Staples or something, and I love that game. Like it's not perfect, but it's just fun as hell. You run around beating the crap out of stuff, and I don't know, this people love Ultimate Destruction. Like why can't we just get something like that, you know?
No, I'm totally with you. It was like equal parts sort of GTA mixed with a beat 'em up and a little bit of like Blast Core for the N64. Like it was super fun to just wreck stuff. And I think that like not every game needs to be sort of like over the top brilliant. I think with a game like Hulk, there's room for nuance, but at the same time, like it's fun to just smash stuff, and that's something he does phenomenally. And I think that like there's totally room for that again. And, you know, I never really thought we'd get another Spider-Man game like we did 2 years ago. And here we are, we're already getting a sequel to it. And so I do totally think that will open up the doors for hopefully more individual stories like this. Like Avengers are cool, but like I really like these characters individually too.
I mean, that's kind of it. Is like the Avengers is like, it seems like a competent game. It's obviously got a lot of polish and a lot of money thrown at it. But I think when you're dealing with something that's so big, you're like, it's that fear of failing that it has to do everything pretty well, you know? And it's like, I guess I'm nostalgic for the days when we got these like sort of weirder, more enthusiastic and more experimental licensed games that oftentimes weren't great, but you know, they tried their best and they at least did something kind of interesting. Whereas this is like kind of a deja vu. So anyway, the final game will come out later and we'll get to see what it's like, you know, for years, I'm sure.